Hey everyone! Before we dive into today's emotional story, if you're enjoying these narratives, make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a new upload. Now let's begin our journey with Jessica Harper, whose life is about to change forever. The gentle clink of silverware against plates filled the warm atmosphere of Rose's Diner, a quaint establishment nestled in the heart of Seaside, Oregon. Faded photographs of fishing boats and local landmarks adorned the wood-paneled walls, telling stories of the small coastal town's history. Outside the windows, grey clouds hung low over the Pacific, promising the familiar afternoon drizzle locals had come to expect. Jessica Harper sat rigid in the red vinyl booth, her untouched slice of blueberry pie creating a barrier between her and the three people sitting across from her, her family. The word felt hollow now, an empty shell of what it should represent. "You barely touched your food, honey," Linda Harper said, her manicured nails tapping against her coffee mug. Jessica noticed the fresh polish, a deep burgundy that matched the designer handbag sitting beside her, a bag Jessica had never seen before. "I'm not very hungry," Jessica replied, her voice tight as she clutched her phone beneath the table. The banking app was still open, the numbers glaring back at her. $486, 27 remaining balance. Just this morning, there had been over $15,000, her emergency fund, her safety net, the result of years of careful saving despite her modest salary as a graphic designer at a small marketing firm. Mark Harper, her father, cleared his throat. "The salmon was excellent today, wasn't it? Worth the drive out here for our little reunion." His gold watch caught the light as he raised his water glass. Jessica recognized it immediately. The Rolex he'd been eyeing for months, but claimed he couldn't afford. Across from her, Caleb, her younger brother, was engrossed in a new gaming device, his fingers flying across the screen. "Almost at level 50, he muttered, not bothering to look up. "This new console is insane." Jessica felt her chest tighten, the familiar pressure building behind her eyes. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. After years of being the family's financial safety net, the reliable one, the responsible one, she had finally decided to check her transaction history while waiting for dessert. What she discovered had shattered the carefully constructed illusion she'd maintained about her family. "I need to ask you all something," Jessica said, her voice surprisingly calm despite the storm raging inside her. "Did any of you access my bank account recently?" The question hung in the air. Linda's fingers stopped their rhythmic tapping. Mark's smile faltered. Only Caleb remained oblivious, his attention fixed on his game. "What do you mean, sweetie?" Linda's voice had taken on a higher pitch. "I mean," Jessica said, placing her phone on the table and turning it to face them, "can someone explain why $15,000 disappeared from my account over the past 3 months, and why there are charges for things I never purchased?" The screen displayed a series of transactions: $1,200 at GameStop, $600 at Bella's Salon, $450 at Morton's Steakhouse, $3,000 transferred to an account she recognized as her parents'. Mark's face flushed red. "Now, Jessie, don't make a scene in public. We can discuss this at home." "Discuss what, Dad? The fact that my family has been stealing from me?" Her voice remained low, but the intensity behind her words was unmistakable. Linda reached across the table, attempting to take Jessica's hand. "Borrowing, honey. We were going to pay it back. We just needed it more than you did right now." The words hit Jessica like a physical blow. Needed it more than she did. The countless nights she'd survived on ramen noodles during the company's layoff periods, the apartment with faulty heating she couldn't afford to leave, the dental work she'd postponed because her parents needed help with their property taxes. Again. "You took everything I had," Jessica whispered, pulling her hand away from her mother's reach. Caleb finally looked up from his game, annoyance flashing across his face. "Come on, Jess. It's not like you're struggling. You're always talking about your fancy design job. Jessica stared at her brother in disbelief, the same brother whose credit card debt she'd helped pay off last Christmas, the same brother who had apparently used her card to buy the very device he was currently playing with. "I can't do this anymore," Jessica said, sliding out of the booth and standing up. "I'm not your personal ATM. I'm your daughter, your sister." Her voice cracked on the last word. "Jessica, sit down," Mark commanded, his authoritative tone, the one that had kept her compliant for 28 years, failing to have its usual effect. "No," she replied, grabbing her purse. "I'm done." As Jessica walked out of Rose's diner, leaving her family staring after her, the afternoon rain began to fall, matching the tears that now streamed freely down her face. Jessica's small apartment felt like a sanctuary as she closed the door behind her, leaning against it as if to physically block out the world. The space was modest, a one-bedroom unit with mismatched furniture and walls adorned with her own artwork. But it was hers. At least what remained of it was hers. Her phone had been buzzing incessantly since she left the diner. 12 missed calls from her mother, 5 from her father, 3 text messages from Caleb, all variations of "you're overreacting." Jessica tossed the phone onto her couch and moved to her desk, powering up her laptop. The familiar logo of her bank appeared on the screen as she logged in, hoping against hope that there had been some mistake, that her family hadn't actually betrayed her trust so completely. But the numbers didn't lie. Transaction after transaction, withdrawal after withdrawal, a systematic draining of her account over 92 days. Some were small, coffee shops, gas stations, online shopping. Others were substantial, transfers directly to her parents' joint account, payments to Caleb's credit card company. As Jessica scrolled through the evidence of her family's betrayal, memories surfaced unbidden. Her mother calling late at night, voice trembling, "The property taxes are due and we're short this month. Just this once, Jessie, please." Her father, proud yet somehow always in need. "You know I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important, but my car needs repairs and business has been slow." Caleb, with his perpetual financial crises. "They're going to shut off my electricity, Jess. I get paid next week. I swear I'll pay you back." The promises of repayment had never materialized. The "just this once" had become a pattern, an expectation. And through it all, Jessica had continued to give, to help, to sacrifice, because that's what family did for each other, wasn't it? Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a different name on the screen, Diane Reynolds. Jessica felt a wave of relief as she answered. "Hey, Diane." "Jess, I've been trying to reach you all afternoon. Are you okay? How did the family lunch go?" Diane had been Jessica's roommate in college, now a practicing attorney in Portland. She was the only person who truly understood the complicated dynamic Jessica had with her family. "They took everything, Jessica said, her voice breaking. "Almost all my savings. They've been accessing my account for months." There was a moment of silence on the other end. "That's not just morally wrong, Jess. That's illegal." "They're my family," Jessica whispered, the default defense mechanism activating even now. "Family doesn't steal from family," Diane replied firmly. "How much are we talking about?" "Around $15,000. Diane's sharp intake of breath was audible. "That's grand theft in Oregon. Jessica, you need to report this." "Report my own parents? My brother?" The thought made Jessica's stomach twist. "What they did was a crime," Diane said, her voice softening. "And from what you've told me over the years, this isn't the first time they've taken advantage of you. It's just the first time you've caught them red-handed." Jessica glanced around her apartment, at the patched furniture, the water stain on the ceiling she couldn't afford to fix, the ancient laptop that struggled to run the design software she needed for work. "I don't even know how they got access to my account," she said. "Did you ever let them use your card or log into your accounts on their devices?" Jessica thought back. "My mom borrowed my card once to pick up groceries for me when I was sick, and I logged into my bank account on my dad's computer last Christmas to show him how to set up automatic bill payments for their utilities." That's probably how it started, Diane said. Listen, I don't want to pressure you, but you should at least document everything now, while the evidence is fresh. Screenshots, transaction records, anything that shows unauthorized use. As Jessica agreed and ended the call, she felt something shifting inside her, a resolve hardening where uncertainty had lived for so long. She opened a new document on her laptop and began typing, "Unauthorized transactions, Harper family." For the next 3 hours, Jessica meticulously documented every suspicious transaction, cross-referencing dates with her own calendar to confirm she couldn't have made the purchases. The gaming console bought while she was at a work conference in Seattle. The salon charges when she was pulling an all-nighter for a client deadline. The steakhouse dinner on an evening she'd eaten leftover pasta at home, alone. By midnight, the document had grown to 12 pages. Jessica sat back, emotionally exhausted, but clearer in her purpose than she'd felt in years. She saved the file, closed her laptop, and finally allowed herself to collapse onto her bed, fully clothed. Tomorrow, she would decide what to do with the evidence. Tonight, she mourned the family she thought she had. The Financial Crimes Unit of the Seaside Police Department was housed in a modest brick building 2 blocks from the ocean. Jessica sat in a hard plastic chair, clutching a manila folder containing printed copies of all her documentation. Beside her, Diane maintained a professional demeanor, though Jessica could sense her friend's protective anger simmering beneath the surface. "Miss Harper." A woman in her mid-40s appeared in the doorway, her dark hair pulled back into a neat bun. "I'm Detective Allison Reed. Please come in." Jessica followed the detective into a small office, taking in the organized desk, the filing cabinets, the diplomas on the wall. Detective Reed had kind eyes that contrasted with her no-nonsense posture. "I understand from your initial report that you believe family members have been making unauthorized withdrawals from your accounts," Detective Reed said after they were seated. "That can be especially difficult to deal with. Take your time." For the next hour, Jessica walked through her evidence, her voice growing steadier as she spoke. She explained the pattern of financial exploitation, not just the recent unauthorized access, but the years of loans that were never repaid. The guilting when she hesitated to help, the sacrifices she'd made while her family enjoyed luxuries. "I lived on ramen noodles during company layoffs while my brother was buying video games with my money," Jessica said, the realization of how absurd it sounded hitting her anew. "I postponed needed dental work because my parents said they couldn't pay their property taxes without my help. I believed them. I always believed them." Detective Reed took meticulous notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions. When Jessica finished, the detective reviewed the transaction records, her expression professionally neutral. "This is quite thorough, Miss Harper. Based on what you've provided, we have enough to open a formal investigation." She looked up from the papers. "I do need to ask, are you certain you want to pursue this? Cases involving family members can be emotionally complicated." Diane shifted in her seat, ready to intervene, but Jessica spoke before her friend could. "Yes," she said, the single word carrying the weight of her decision. "What they did was wrong. If I let this go, nothing will change. They'll just find another way to take advantage of me." Detective Reed nodded. "All right then. We'll need formal statements, and there will be paperwork to sign. The investigation may take some time, and if we proceed with charges, you should be prepared for potential backlash from your family." "I understand," Jessica replied. The thought of her family's anger and disappointment still frightened her, but for the first time, she recognized that their approval wasn't worth the cost she'd been paying. As they left the police station 2 hours later, Diane gave Jessica's shoulder a supportive squeeze. "You did the right thing. It wasn't easy, but it was right." Jessica nodded, watching as a pair of seagulls circled overhead, their cries carrying on the sea breeze. "What happens now?" "Now," Diane said, "we wait for Detective Reed to do her job, and you focus on rebuilding your financial security." "And my family," Jessica asked quietly. Diane's expression softened. That's the hardest part, isn't it? But remember, Jess, you didn't break this relationship. They did. With every dollar they took without permission, with every lie they told, with every time they prioritized their wants over your needs. Jessica watched the ocean waves in the distance, finding a strange comfort in their constant motion. I keep thinking I should have seen it sooner. They're your family, Diane replied. We want to believe the best about the people we love. There's no shame in that. As they walked toward the parking lot, Jessica's phone rang. Her mother's name flashed on the screen. She hesitated, then declined the call, silencing the ringer before slipping the phone back into her purse. Some conversations would have to wait. First, she needed to find her own strength again, a strength her family had spent years undermining. 3 days after filing the police report, Jessica returned home from work to find 6 voicemails and 14 text messages waiting for her. Her family had escalated from confusion to anger to panic as they realized she wasn't merely having a temporary fit of pique. The last voicemail from her father made her stomach clench. Jessica Elizabeth Harper, a police detective, showed up at our door today with questions about your bank account. Is this some kind of joke? Your mother is beside herself. Call us immediately and put an end to this nonsense before you damage this family beyond repair. Jessica sat on her couch, the phone trembling in her hand. She had known this moment would come, had prepared for it mentally, but the reality was still overwhelming. Detective Reed had warned her that the investigation would involve contacting her family, but hearing the raw anger in her father's voice made the situation suddenly terrifyingly real. Her phone lit up with an incoming call, Caleb. Jessica took a deep breath and answered. How could you do this to us? Her brother's voice was a harsh whisper. There are cops asking questions about us around town. Do you know how this makes us look? How it makes you look? Jessica repeated, incredulity creeping into her voice. Caleb, you stole from me. All of you did. We're family. Family helps each other out. Help goes both ways, Caleb. When was the last time any of you helped me? There was a pause on the other end of the line. That's different. You've always been the stable one, the responsible one. And that makes me your personal bank? You spent $1,200 of my money on a gaming console, Caleb, money I worked hard to earn and save. I was going to pay you back, he muttered, the defensive tone so familiar it almost made Jessica laugh. No, you weren't, she said, surprised by how certain she felt. You've never paid me back for anything. None of you have. So you called the cops on your own family? Do you know what could happen to Mom and Dad? To me? Jessica closed her eyes, fighting against the guilt his words were designed to trigger. What about what happened to me, Caleb? $15,000. Gone. That was my safety net, my future. It's just money, Jess. No, she said firmly. It's more than that. It's years of my life. It's work I did, sacrifices I made, dreams I put on hold to help all of you, only to find out you were taking even more behind my back. The line went quiet. When Caleb spoke again, his voice had changed, a calculating edge replacing the anger. Look, we can fix this. Just tell the police it was all a misunderstanding. Say you gave us permission. We'll pay you back, for real this time. Jessica felt a strange calmness wash over her. This was the pattern, had always been the pattern. Promises made with no intention of keeping them. I'm not lying to the police, Caleb. What you all did was wrong. Then you're not part of this family anymore, he snapped. That's what Mom and Dad said, and I agree with them. You chose money over your own blood. The words should have devastated her. Instead, they confirmed what Jessica had already begun to suspect. The relationship had never been what she thought it was. I didn't choose money over family, Caleb. I chose self-respect. There's a difference. She ended the call before he could respond, then turned off her phone entirely. Walking to her small balcony, Jessica looked out at the sliver of ocean visible between neighboring buildings. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow across the water. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine a future where her resources, financial and emotional, belonged to her alone. A future where no was a complete sentence, where her worth wasn't measured by what she could provide to others. It was frightening, it was liberating, it was long overdue. 2 weeks passed in a strange limbo. Jessica threw herself into her work, taking on additional freelance projects to begin rebuilding her savings. She changed all her passwords, ordered a new debit card, and set up alerts for any transaction over $20. Small steps toward reclaiming her financial independence. Detective Reed called with regular updates. The investigation was progressing. Bank records had been subpoenaed. Surveillance footage from stores where her card had been used was being reviewed. The case was strong. Jessica had expected to feel vindicated by this news. Instead, she found herself experiencing waves of conflicting emotions, resolve followed by doubt, righteousness followed by guilt. She'd started seeing a therapist, Dr. Marshall, who specialized in family dynamics and financial abuse. "What you're feeling is normal," Dr. Marshall assured her during their third session. "You're grieving the family you thought you had, while simultaneously standing up to the family you actually have. That's complex emotional territory." Jessica nodded, twisting a tissue between her fingers. "I keep having this recurring dream where I'm at Rose's diner again, but this time I just ignore what I discovered. I laugh at their jokes, I pick up the check like always, and everything goes back to normal. I wake up feeling relieved, and then immediately ashamed of that relief." "You've been conditioned to prioritize family harmony over your own well-being," Dr. Marshall explained. "Breaking that pattern is hard work. Be patient with yourself." On a rainy Tuesday afternoon, Jessica was at her desk working on a logo design when her doorbell rang. She froze, immediately afraid it might be her parents. They had escalated to sending certified letters after she blocked their numbers. Letters filled with emotional manipulation that Dr. Marshall had helped her recognize for what they were. Cautiously approaching the door, Jessica peered through the peephole. Detective Reed stood in the hallway, her expression serious but not alarming. Jessica exhaled in relief as she opened the door. "Miss Harper, I hope I'm not interrupting," the detective said. "I wanted to update you in person rather than over the phone." Jessica invited her in, clearing design sketches from the couch to make space. "Has something happened?" Detective Reed nodded, taking a seat. "The district attorney has decided to proceed with charges against your parents and brother. Grand theft, identity theft, and fraud. I wanted you to hear it from me first, so you could prepare yourself." Jessica's mouth went dry. Despite knowing this was a possibility, even a probability given the evidence, the reality of it struck her with unexpected force. What happens now? They'll be formally charged this week. Given the amount involved and the clear paper trail, the DA believes there's a strong case for conviction. Your parents are looking at possible jail time, though as first-time offenders, they might receive probation instead. There will also be court-ordered restitution. "Jail?" Jessica whispered, the word hanging heavy in the air. Detective Reed's expression softened slightly. "I know this is difficult. Many victims in your position feel conflicted about pursuing charges against family members. If you're having second thoughts—" "No," Jessica interrupted, surprising herself with her firmness. "No second thoughts. I just never imagined it would go this far. They made choices, Miss Harper, repeatedly, over an extended period of time. Those choices have consequences." The detective's words echoed Jessica's own thoughts from weeks earlier. After Detective Reed left, Jessica stood at her window, watching raindrops trace patterns down the glass. Her family had always taught her about consequences, lectures about responsibility and prudence that now seemed painfully ironic. Her phone chimed with a text from Diane. "Free for dinner tonight. That new Thai place opened downtown." Jessica smiled, typing back a quick affirmative. As she set her phone down, she realized something had shifted inside her. Not a complete healing, but a step in that direction. The guilt was still there, but it no longer overwhelmed her. The grief remained, but alongside it grew something new, a quiet, steady certainty that she had done what needed to be done, not just for herself, but for her family too. Perhaps someday they would understand that holding them accountable was, in its own way, an act of love. The first honest interaction in a relationship built on exploitation, disguised as family obligation. 6 months later, Jessica stood on the beach, watching waves crash against the shore as the sun dipped toward the horizon. The air was cool against her skin, carrying the scent of salt and seaweed. Behind her, the lights of Seaside were beginning to twinkle in the gathering dusk. Much had changed in half a year. The court case had concluded more quickly than expected, her family choosing to accept plea deals rather than risk longer sentences at trial. Her parents received 3 years of probation, community service, and were ordered to pay full restitution. Caleb, with a previous record for minor offenses, served 30 days in county jail before also being placed on probation. The money was being repaid in monthly installments. Her father had been forced to sell his beloved boat to make the initial payment. But Jessica knew it would take years to recover the full amount. Somehow, that mattered less than it once had. What mattered more was the boundary she had finally established, the line she had drawn in the sand that could not be crossed without consequences. Her family had not taken it well. There were no tearful apologies, no moments of genuine remorse, only anger, blame, and self-pity. They had shown her exactly who they were, and in doing so had freed her from the obligation to be someone she was not. Jessica bent down to pick up a smooth stone, turning it over in her palm before skipping it across the water's surface. 3 bounces before it disappeared beneath the waves. "Nice throw," a voice called from behind her. Jessica turned to see Diane approaching, carrying 2 takeout cups of coffee. She handed one to Jessica. "Thought you might be getting cold out here." "Thanks." Jessica accepted the cup gratefully, wrapping her fingers around its warmth. "Just thinking." "Dangerous pastime," Diane teased, bumping Jessica's shoulder with her own. "How are you feeling?" "Really?" Jessica considered the question. "Lighter," she finally said. "Like I've been carrying this weight for so long, I forgot what it felt like not to have it pressing down on me. It still hurts sometimes, but it's a different kind of hurt now. Cleaner, somehow." Diane nodded, understanding in her eyes. "Your mom called my office again yesterday. What did she want this time?" "The same, trying to get me to convince you to drop the restitution order. I told her again that it doesn't work that way, and that she should direct all communication through her lawyer." Diane sipped her coffee. She mentioned they're having trouble making mortgage payments now. Jessica felt the familiar twinge of guilt, but it was duller now, more manageable. "That used to be my problem. It's not anymore." "No, it's not," Diane agreed. "You know, I'm really proud of you, Jess. What you did took incredible courage." The compliment warmed Jessica more than the coffee. "I couldn't have done it without your help." "Yes, you could have. You're stronger than you know." Diane glanced at her watch. "We should head back soon if we want to make that pottery class I signed us up for." Jessica laughed. "I still can't believe you're dragging me to pottery class." "New experiences, new friends, new Jessica," Diane declared. "That was our pact, remember?" As they walked back toward town, Jessica reflected on the changes in her life. The promotion she'd received at work after focusing fully on her career. The small but growing emergency fund she was rebuilding. The therapy sessions that had helped her understand the difference between genuine family bonds and the toxic relationships she'd been caught in. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from a number she didn't recognize. "It's Caleb. Got a new phone. Can we talk?" 6 months ago, that message would have sent her into a spiral of anxiety and obligation. Now, she simply tucked the phone away. Whatever her brother wanted, it could wait until she was ready, if she ever would be. Tonight belonged to pottery class, to laughter with a friend who respected her boundaries, to the simple joy of creating something new with her own two hands. Tonight belonged to her. As they reached the street, Jessica paused to look back at the ocean one last time. The tide was coming in, washing away the footprints they'd left in the sand. Nature's way of saying sometimes a clean slate was the greatest gift of all. I hope you enjoyed this emotional journey through Jessica's life. If you connected with her story, please hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support means the world to me, and it helps more people discover these stories of courage, healing, and personal growth. Until next time.